Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
Welcome back to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury, the show that helps individuals and small business owners fight back when the IRS comes calling. Lance Drury is a seasoned tax attorney who's been defending clients for over 20 years with one goal in mind: protecting what matters most. I'm your host, Evan Mack, and today we're talking about a phrase that strikes fear into taxpayers: IRS Revenue Officer. This is IRS Revenue Officers, what they do and how to handle them. Lance Drury, sir, welcome back.
Good to see you, Evan. It's always a big pleasure for me to be here with you.
Listen, we always listen. IRS people, they're like the boogeyman. People feel like it's like Freddy Krueger or Jason coming after them. You know, I've never really actually seen one in person. Do they really exist?
Yes, they do. And let me tell you, I tell everybody, you're probably too young to remember, but I tell everybody, I'm protecting Fay Ray from the clutches of King Kong. That's what I do. That movie's only from the 1930s, so
that's all, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. So anyway, yeah, that's what we do. And you can really get into some bad revenue officers. I mean, they just want to levy left and right. When people try to do this on their own, they think they sent everything into them.
Yep.
And they haven't, because it's confusing. It's complicated for the average individual. And then they get levied because, unlike me or other practitioners, they'll call us or we'll get a hold of them and say, is there anything else you need? And they won't levy that. But for, a lay person, they just take advantage of them. They just go ahead and levy them. And that's when they come to me and they'll say, oh, I sent everything in. Well, no, they didn't. Because like I said earlier, they try to confuse people. It's very complicated. And all of that financial information that's needed, it's a little overwhelming for the average individual.
But what actually is an IRS revenue officer? How are they different from just maybe getting a letter from the IRS?
Because they want everything and they want it now, or they're going to levy you, and they want to get that case resolved as quickly as possible. They want to get it out of their inventory. And so, you deal with the automated collection system, which is where the bulk of IRS cases are. It can take 9 months to a year to get a resolution. Those revenue officers, they want a resolution within a few months. But here's what happens. And this is sort of a standing joke in the IRS industry. Fellow practitioners and I talk about this all the time. They send you what's called a 9297, a summary of taxpayer contact. They want all this information. They want financials. They want 6 months of bank statements. They want proof of different kinds of expenses. They want pay stubs for X amount of time. And they give you like a 20-day deadline or less. And then guess what? So you have to hurry up, get all this information in right away so your client doesn't get levied, and then it sits. And you often don't hear back from them for 60 to 90 days, because heaven forbid they work any overtime to try to get caught up. And so, there's only so much that they can do at any one time if they're relegated to a 40-hour work week. So, and there's a lot of information that they want, so it takes them a lot of time to go through that. I have to tell you, I talked to one of my attorneys in Nashville, Tennessee today, and we discussed the case. And, he sent all this information into the RO. The RO says, you don't get it in by X date, we're going to levy your client. Hasn't heard a word from the revenue officer in months. Wow. Since all the information was submitted. He tries to call him. He doesn't get his phone calls returned. So who knows what's going on? But this happens a lot. You hurry up and then you wait.
But when do you get to that point though? When they assign a IRS revenue officer, when is that? What gets it to that point?
Well, normally it's if you're talking about individual income tax liability, 1040 liability, those cases have to be sent to a revenue officer if it exceeds $250,000.
Okay.
Now, there may be times when they'll send a case less than that to the revenue officer, but it's mandatory. The automated collection system does not have any jurisdiction to reach a settlement with you if the liability is over $250,000. Now, the other thing that can generate a revenue officer getting involved if there's a lot of years of unfiled tax returns, then they're in there. And a lot of those people, they don't owe anything once they file the returns, but it's a crime not to file your tax returns. So oftentimes they're assigned to a revenue officer if there's a lot of years of tax returns that haven't been filed. And the other instance is payroll tax. And payroll tax is like their highest priority. And they will assign revenue officers to payroll tax cases when you're talking $30,000, $40,000. And then the other problem with the payroll tax is that, and a lot of people don't know this, but if you're incorporated and you have payroll tax liability, the IRS then can do what's called a trust fund penalty interview. And none of my clients submit to that because it's like confessing to a crime. So they never appear for that. They already know in a small business who the responsible party is. They know who's running the business, and they get them involved because then they can assert the trust fund. And the significance of that is that now they're not just going after the income and the assets of the business. Now they're coming after your personal income and your personal assets. And that's the trust fund portion. That's the portion attributable to the employee. So it's generally 50 to 60% of the total tax. And in a lot of instances, that's all that the IRS can get because a lot of these businesses don't make it. As you know, a lot of small businesses fail.
Yeah.
And if they have unpaid payroll tax and there's no longer any income in the business, there's no longer any assets in the business, they're not going to get a dime out of the business. The business is defunct. So then they're going to come after the people individually for the unpaid portion of the payroll tax that's attributable to the employee.
But what kind of authority do they have when it comes to seizing these assets, though? Laying accounts or demanding payment? What can they do?
Well, they can levy you, just like the automated collection system. They'll go after your bank accounts. They'll go after your assets. They'll go after your accounts receivable. So what happens then is, a lot of people lose business because somebody that's done business, they don't want to have to deal with them. So often they'll take their business elsewhere. But yeah, and you can set up an agreement with the IRS to take care of that situation. I'm going to tell you a story about this. We had an outfit out of Illinois. They had somebody out of Colorado they represented. They paid him $30,000. And they kept calling him at the last minute for financial information. They were dropping the ball. And eventually these people got levied for 2 different levies for like $1 million or whatever.
Whoa.
And so they called me. We had a phone call. They had their accountant with them. And they wanted me to guarantee them that I could get the levy lifted. I said, I can't guarantee that. We have a good track record of doing that. So they hired us at 7:30 the next morning. Before the end of the day, the levies were lifted by my firm. We set up an agreement where they're paying a few $1,000s to the IRS. They were ecstatic because we got them a great deal. They're not going to come anywhere close to paying back the full amount, and they can afford the payments that they're making. And so they were satisfied because no more levies. They have nothing now to worry about. And we got all that accomplished in about 30 days because there was a revenue officer involved and they wanted to get it cleaned up right away.
Crazy. But Lance, what should someone not say if a revenue officer contacts them, whether by phone or even in person?
They shouldn't say anything to them.
Okay.
They should be telling them that I'm looking for legal representation, because a lot of times people say things to those revenue officers or to the IRS in general that just totally incriminates them. I've had people come to me and they've already told the IRS stuff that the IRS is going to hold against them. And then you're sort of limited in how flexible a result you can get with the IRS. So, I tell everybody in the initial consult that talking to the IRS is like talking to the cops if you're charged with a crime. It's not a very good idea. And particularly And I think we've already talked about this in another segment, Evan. Audits. I have
Yeah.
seen so many audits go criminal simply because of what the people told the auditor. You get an attorney, they cannot hold anything against you that the attorney says to them. And in fact, we make it a condition of our continued representation with the IRS that they not contact the IRS directly, because then we don't know what's going on. And we
Mm,
can't argue with the IRS when they said, well, they said this, because we
yeah.
weren't privy to that conversation.
Can people negotiate directly with a revenue officer, or should they just call you?
Well, they can negotiate directly with a revenue officer, but I don't think that's the smartest move.
Yeah.
And that's because the financial statements, they're confusing, they're complicated. Nobody fills them out right. 99% of the time, we go back and forth 5 times because we got to get the numbers right, because the taxpayer is submitting those numbers on that financial statement under penalties of perjury. So that's why you need a tax professional. And there's advice that we can give them in terms of their assets and their expenses to get a better deal out of Uncle Sam.
Hmm. What's the risk of ignoring a revenue officer, or maybe handling later, pushing up the road?
Well, it's levies. You're going to get
Yeah.
your bank account wiped out. You're going to get 90% of your check taken. You're going to get 15% of your Social Security seized. So, you do not, under any circumstances, want to ignore a revenue officer. That's about the worst mistake you can make with the IRS. But guess what? It happens all the time.
Hmm. Have you had a case though, Lance, that made a difference in how aggressively the IRS pursued someone?
Oh yeah, we get, a lot of times they'll come in and they're going to do this and they're going to do that,
Yep.
and then we get involved and they get more reasonable. You know, they don't talk to us like they would talk to some taxpayers. Let's just put it like that. They take advantage of lay people.
Yep.
They know that they don't know how the game is played. They know that we do know how the game is played. In fact, we got one right now, and our client really hasn't done everything that he needed to do. So right before he hired us, he got levied, and he still doesn't have all the information. And we think we're going to give him a great deal once he complies and gives the IRS the financial information they need to get a settlement. But if you just blow them off, if you ignore them, if you don't give them the relevant information. Now, sometimes they ask for information that's not relevant. We're not going to give it to them, and we can deal with that with their boss if we have to. But
Right.
you need to give them all the financial information that's relevant to making a determination as to what your ability to pay the delinquent taxes back is.
Hmm. So if this is going down with somebody, a client or someone that's watching this right now, and they don't know what to do and they're feeling overwhelmed, Lance, what would you say to them?
Call us. We'll help you out. We've done this forever. We've got over 1,000 clients at any one time. We're a 4.7 out of 5 Google reviews in St. Louis. We're a 4.9 out of 5 in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been featured in a number of national publications. I was quoted in Forbes magazine. I was voted top practitioner by the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers in 2016. Evan, we're the real deal here, so call
Let's go.
us.
Call him. You got to call him up, baby. You see Lance Drury? He's in Forbes. He's decorated. He's all over America helping people.
That's right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Evan. You have a great day.
You too, and thank you all for joining us on Resilience and Resolve. If you're contacted by a revenue officer, don't deal with it alone. Visit lancedrurylaw.com to get help from a team that knows how to handle high stakes IRS cases. And be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone that would find this information helpful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.